heavens above, and I believe in truth. I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you. So tell me, do you feel the way that I feel? Then tell me, would you give what I'm willing to give? And I believe in honesty, and I believe it's true, and I believe if you set it free, it will come back to you. And I believe that things were meant to really be, and I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you.
And I think we're live. Hi, everybody.
Yes, you're live. Sorry.
Thank you, JJ. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. Right now, while we're in transition, we're calling it previously known as iCureCancer.com, soon to be Cancer Kickers. Thank you all for tuning in and listening to us and whatnot. And I just want to say thank you again, JJ, for helping us out. One of our producers. He's amazing, and he's just always there for us. And I just can't tell you how much I appreciate everything, that you've done for us. And also,
I'm pushing the blush button. Sorry.
Uh-oh.
And I'm about to add your guest Simon to the call right now.
Okay.
Okay. Now I finally completed my job, and I apologize for all the way we had to do it. I guess I'm just learning how to do it properly. I haven't really done too much of this part of the network, but so anyways, thank you for being patient.
No problem.
Thank you, James. And hey, this is an interesting topic, so anytime you want to chime in, because you're an expert in this area, feel free to.
Okay.
Before we get started, I just want to once again introduce my gorgeous, talented co-host, Vanessa Logan, world-renowned actor, writer, comedian. She couldn't be with us the past couple of weeks because she's so busy being famous. So
Cynthia also does all of my publicity, so I just like to say thank you there. She's obviously doing a beautiful job of having my reputation precede me, so thank you, Cynthia.
You're welcome. So, how are you doing, by the way?
I'm good. I'm really good. Thank you.
You are.
I am. Things are going well. I'm in a good place.
That's good.
Thank you.
So, our guest, this is going to be fun. We had him on quite a bit ago. I was trying to remember the first time that we had Simon on. Simon Coleman. He's got a really, really interesting story. And I'm going to let him tell it. He is a cancer survivor, as I am, and was treating himself with alternative medicine. And I don't want to say too much, but he's an incredible man. You guys are going to love this story. It's going to be a fun ride. And so I would just like to introduce him right now. Hi, Simon. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Vanessa. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. We so appreciate it. And I've just been fascinated with your story, and would love to get updates, actually, since the last time we spoke. And we've been trying to get together, on the phone for ages, and it seems like...
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So... I want to let you tell the story. You were diagnosed with cancer, is that right? And I can't remember what kind of cancer it was, Simon.
Right. It was 2012, September 2012. I was diagnosed with kidney cancer, stage 3 kidney cancer.
Right.
And just going on a little further for that, the pathology report that I had, that I got back a couple of months after my kidney was removed in October that year, it was a very rare and a very aggressive cancer. with survival times without treatment of 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty serious. But obviously I refused the chemotherapy and the radiation. I did have the surgery to remove my kidney, but I can honestly tell you now, if I knew then what I discovered soon after, I would not have had my right kidney taken out.
Right. Well, I mean, for all of us, hindsight is 20/20. So you had your kidney removed, and then you decided to start treating yourself alternatively. Is that right, or did I get that wrong?
Well, I just started using food. I just started juicing. I started doing the juicing protocol and the alkalizing diet. And basically, I removed all the processed foods from my diet, all the garbage, all the meat, all the dairy, and I just ended up with a strict vegetarian juicing diet. I balanced my pH, the alkalizing method, the Otto Warburg method, got that up to 7.4 pH pretty rapid. And within 3 months, I went for my final CT scan in December of that year, and I got the all clear.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, congratulations. So that was December 2012 is when you were completely cleared?
Yeah, that's when that's December 2012 is when I had the CT scan. I didn't get the results back until January. And
that's right.
So, that's right. And so that's when I was also researching into the cannabis oil and the Rick Simpson oil and that research. And that's because I'd not got my results back. I was still unsure if I had cancer, so it kind of was a hedging my bets, you can say. I'd done all the juicing and the alkalizing, and I had my CT scan, and then it was right at that junction when I started taking cannabis oil throughout that December, still unaware that I was cancer-free.
Right.
And sure enough, I was okay for the first month following Rick Simpson's protocol, and I was in touch with Rick and the people in the Colorado movement. And then that's when at the back end of December, early January, the train came off the tracks, and the nasty side effects that oil has really got a hold of me, made me paranoid.
Interrupting, I wanted to ask you a question for those of us that are not really familiar with the cannabis protocol. I mean, I feel like people in the general population might know a little bit about alkalizing. They've heard about juicing a little bit to sort of create that alkaline balanced environment in your body to stop the cancer from proceeding or even to reverse it. But what does cannabis do, and what does that oil usually, how is that described to be helpful for people?
The claim is that it cures cancer and that it removes the tumors.
Okay,
and
that'll do.
That will do.
Okay, you had me at
that will do it.
That's cool.
And that's what all the research says, and that's why I kind of got dragged into that movement, because of the testimonials were so powerful from patients. And then you've got the pharmaceutical research to back it up. But what nobody tells you about in that movement, unfortunately, is the nasty side effects. And that's when it got me dragged into the psychiatric ward because of the paranoia. I ended up admitted to hospital in January.
Simon, can we just back up a little bit? So, what happened was, I think, the cannabinoids just all of a sudden built up too much, and JJ, jumped in. They built up too much, and then all of a sudden, as I remember you telling the story last time, all of a sudden you were in your house and you thought somebody was trying to kill you or something like that, and so you ran into your neighbor's yard. I forget the exact details of that timeline.
Yeah, I actually thought my wife at the time, who was my ex-wife, I actually thought she was poisoning me.
The
woman that I was.
A lot of men are afraid about that. I think that's
yeah.
Well, listen, I believe that you're probably right, and it would be probably the psychoactive, the THC component. But yeah, that's I mean, you definitely have to warn somebody about that, especially somebody who's never. I mean, it does have psychoactive qualities, and if you use too much, I mean, if you build up your tolerance to it slowly, a little bit at a time, it won't bother you. But that is definitely something that should be discussed before anybody just starts taking high grade indica extract.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree.
Would it? I'm like so hilariously not schooled about drugs, and I mean, I'm not.
It is still medicine.
As she puts the bong down.
Right, exactly. I've actually never actually even smoked out of a bong.
Really?
I don't know how I made it out of college. I don't know what I did.
I don't either.
But I'm like the most boring person when it comes to that stuff.
But when she walks in the door, the first thing she's looking for is my crack pipe.
Well, that I'm older now. So is it? I'm just kind of trying to put together because the relationship between cannabis oil and what like street marijuana, street pot, whatever the kids are calling it these days. I know that you can get sort of paranoid as a result of getting too high, or is it just sort of that because they're closely related, that those chemicals are similar, they can have a paranoid response when somebody takes it?
I think going to what JJ said there, when you're not used to the substance, I mean, I smoked one joint when I was 16, 17. It never did anything for me, and I never touched it again. So when I was diagnosed, I was taking a gram of oil per day. That's the equivalent of 100 joints, apparently.
Oh my God!
Wow. That's quite a bit. It's quite a bit, and it can scare you. And somebody should have warned you about that.
Yeah.
It's highly concentrated oil.
I want to point out also, like this is me and my soapbox, but every body chemistry is different. Yep. And, every time someone's going to react to anything differently. Like the reason I'm asking too is I smoked pot in high school just to be cool. And, I really didn't like it. I couldn't take it. And, because, and there's an old saying, my dear friend Bob Long, may he rest in peace, he gave me this piece of information. He said, Virgo women can't smoke pot. Why is that? He said, yeah, he said you say that. Well, he said, he was right as me, and I have another friend that's a Virgo. He says, you either get really mean or really crazy. And yeah. So when I would smoke pot just to be cool, like if I was high right now, I'd be looking at you, Vanessa, going, "Why are you looking at me like that?"
Well, yeah, girls, and I'm going to be quiet here in a second and just mute myself back up. I don't want to take over your show for you, but the psycho, it definitely it can be scary for one, especially if you're straight laced and you've never done anything like that and don't even drink. If you're a chronic smoker of cannabis, the effects are much different because I would have recommended, and this is where I'll leave you because I don't know if and I'm friends with Rick, so and I know he recommends, you get 70 grams into you as fast as possible. But I would have recommended that you started out with like a pencil eraser size dollop, once in the morning, once at night, and build up your tolerance before you started trying to put a gram a day into you. Because and the only reason I'm saying that is because I really believe in the medicinal qualities of the plant. And it's not by any means the only way to cure yourself of cancer. But it is a very good way to kickstart your your immune system and to stop the cancer cells from growing. And then you have to change your lifestyle. You have to change what gave you cancer to begin with. And, but I'm a firm believer in it. And I think that there needs to be more research. And I think that there needs to be a lot of people who think of this and hear of this as a medicine aren't told that, it's also used recreationally by people for thousands and thousands of years, and so you have to be ready for that. Okay, now and I want to just leave you guys alone now, but it's a shame that someone didn't warn you of that, and I sure hope that your cancer is either in remission or is gone away. I truly hope.
I'm fine, JJ. The thing is, I didn't need the oil because I'd done the alkalizing and the juicing. That's what I say.
Absolutely.
It's all
yeah,
diet.
but he didn't know that at the time. He didn't know that at the time, and I understand because, you know, even before I got my clean bill of health, when, you know, you get something like you've got to have a kidney removed, or as I did, you have less than 2 years to live, then you've got a clock ticking, and so you hit it and hit it hard. And I probably didn't have to do all of the things that I was doing, but, you know, you're in a panic, and so you're just like, I'm going to do whatever, you know, I have to. He didn't know at the time, and maybe Rick Simpson didn't know, or whoever, they didn't know at the time that he was cancer-free, or he's well on his way to completely healing. So they probably were like, man, dude, you got a noose around your neck. You got to hit it and hit it hard. It's generally, you know what I mean, with those of us who are like heading down terminal lane, if you will, that's what the advice is.
Yeah, I totally agree. So you've just got to do everything that you can possible.
Yeah.
But going back to the oil there, you know, even the cannabis oil, what Rick says and what the movement says is you have to keep taking it, otherwise the cancer will come back.
Right.
I totally disagree with that because cannabis, everyone's saying cannabis cures cancer.
I agree with you, Simon. And one last thing before I shut up is I agree with you. Once the cancer is gone, there's millions of different ways to keep it gone. And you know, if you are sworn, you know, if you're sworn to the treatment and you're going to keep doing the, you know, maintenance doses, that's fine. But there are, once you've cured or once you've gotten rid of the cancer and you've started to change your lifestyle to a healthy lifestyle where you eat well and you exercise and you as Cynthia always says, as soon as your soul heals and you're upstairs and your mental capacity is returned to you, then, you know, I don't see why you would need the maintenance doses.
No, you don't. You don't. And really what it is it's about changing the vibrational frequency that you live in. And once you're on a higher frequency, once you're on a higher vibrational plane, those lower places where you were, they can't come close to you. This is just simple law of attraction. So, you know, you can be unaffected by them. And that's the point, just a little bleep again, is so many people now with the reoccurrences, what they do, and they constantly blame it on the diet. And it doesn't necessarily like, oh, I went off my diet. Or no, what happened was you were on a healing path. You were raising your frequency. And then once you got the clean bill of health, so many of them went back to the lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, the lifestyle, the diet, you know, the mental state that made them sick in the first place. That's where the reoccurrence comes in. But as I did, I learned my lesson. So I continued to try to work on my electromagnetic body, raising my vibration. And what happens is that the people in your life where you got sick, they start falling by the wayside, sometimes very quickly and drastically. But you're not a match anymore. You're not a vibrational match. Or they raise with you and they come along the board with you. And that's why I never had a reoccurrence. And that's why I like do whatever I want. It's really now I'm at the point of like whatever lifestyle, well, whatever diet, you know what I mean? You want to eat this or eat that or drink what, you know, you can get to that point where you're just on a high frequency. So the outside forces you're unaffected by.
That totally resonates with me completely. Totally resonates because I call it the cancer tornado.
I like it.
You know, when that tornado comes into your life, it just turns everything upside down, and it's either a wake-up call or a death sentence. And if you don't grab the right information and, like you say, change the frequency of your vibration and make some serious drastic changes in your life, it's going to be the end of you, in my opinion. So I was very fortunate. And like you say, your friends do drop to the wayside. Yeah, I had a dramatic change in my life, and I had a lot of negative people fall out of my life that weren't good for me. And it was kind of clearing house. You might.
Well, and having cancer isn't the only reason that you should consider chelation. You know what I mean?
Consider what, sorry?
I said cancer isn't the only reason. I mean, anybody should consider chelation. And
what is chelation for those of us that are unschooled?
Well, it's sort of the same thing. It's getting the toxins out of your body, drinking lots of water and minerals, and forcing the toxins out of your body.
Okay, so you could do that with everything. You can do that with your calendar. You can do that with your phone book. You can do that with everybody. Just get everything out. Clear out the clutter.
Everything toxic.
Yeah, I just don't want you guys to think that I'm a one-trick pony and I just want people to smoke pot. You know what I mean?
JJ,
I want people to be healthy and well.
We know that, JJ, but you might win the presidency if that's all you wanted. Well, anyway, I want to bring it back to this journey of yours, Simon, because it's so funny and interesting. So here you are. You think your wife is poisoning you.
Yep.
And really, we don't know, but, we weren't there. But so you think your wife is you think your wife is poisoning you, and then what happened? Is that when didn't you, like, take some clothes off and run into the neighbor's yard or something like that? I can't remember what happened next.
I don't know where that came from.
That's me. I'm sorry, that was me.
No. I'm sure the neighbors would have enjoyed that. But I did end up running. I ended up on a native reserve. My spirituality and my intuition was telling me to go to the natives. That's the only place I felt safe.
Right.
So it was the middle of winter. I ended up down on a native reserve. And of course, I didn't get a very warm reception.
And here, is it native, like native to North America, or what's the word that you're saying?
Native Canadians, Indians, or
okay, great. Native. Okay, yeah. Sorry. I thought maybe you were saying naked reserve, and I was like, God, we're back to the naked thing again. Everybody's taking their clothes off in the story. No,
that's Cynthia's neighborhood.
Right. Okay, good. Sorry. But we digress. Okay, you were saying you're at the native reserve.
So of course I didn't get the warm reception that, being English and everything, I didn't get a warm reception, and that's when the police ended up picking me up and taking me to the hospital. And long story short, I ended up, in hospital for 4 days while they detoxed me. Just gave me some good food and just let the effects of the cannabis oil wear off. And that was basically the last time I took it. But what really turned interesting was in April. That was in January/February. And then in April, I wasn't taking any cannabis oil, and I was out walking my dog just in the local village one Sunday afternoon. And I just happened to trespass on somebody's property. And that's when I was picked up by about 10 squad cars for walking my dog, and that's when I was arrested. And from there, they didn't take me to the police station and give me a trespass charge because I'd been involved with marijuana in the hospital a couple of months earlier. The psychiatrist that was dealing with it actually labeled me crazy, and just took me. The police, because that flagged up on the police report, they took me straight to Guelph General Hospital and force medicated me.
Wow.
It was just a horrendous experience. They stripped me of all my human rights, and they gave me two options: a pill or a needle. It was like the Matrix, the red pill or the blue pill.
Oh my God!
And I had police guards at my feet. I couldn't do anything. And so I'll condense the story. Obviously, I refused the injections. They said, if you don't decide, we're going to hold you down and inject you. So obviously I was forced to take the pill. And then from there, they detained me in a maximum security hospital and force-drugged me for 4 or 5 days. For doing what? For doing that? For walking my dog on someone's property. But just
right.
because I've been in contact with the marijuana, the hospital and the psychiatrist at that junction had labeled me. And once you've got that label, it's big trouble.
Yeah.
So of course, I wasn't taking the drugs. I was spitting them out, and I don't know if you read that script, as you put it, that I put together, that little story of events. But I was not taking the drugs. I was spitting them out, and sure enough, 4 or 5 days later, I escaped. I escaped from the hospital.
The mental hospital, you escaped.
Yeah, I escaped from the psychiatric hospital because they were forced drugging me. So here I am. The psychiatrist had labeled me a danger to myself and a danger to others. So I knew that
when you say escaped, I'm just curious because I've got, like almost like a cartoon in my head where you like tied bed sheets together and jumped out the window and shimmied down the drain pipe. What? How did that work? I mean, maybe that is what you did, but
how did that work? Well, it turns out I had $900 cash on me, and I just had a change of clothes, and I got 1 hour's privilege to go to the library. So I took a change of clothes, and as you signed out to go to the library, you had to put the time that you signed out. So it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I put 2 o'clock, so that bought me an hour. So I knew it. So then I went to the washroom beside the library, changed into a change of clothes, and walked past security and just walked straight out the front doors. So it was quite tense. The security were there, and there's cameras everywhere.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
This is my favorite part of the story. So now you're out on the street. You can't go to the police for help. I think you said you were afraid to go to your house because your wife didn't know it was what?
Yeah, I couldn't go home because the family were still believing what the hospital was telling them. And so I couldn't go there because that's the first place the police are going to go for you.
Right.
So I basically...
It's like you're in the Matrix. You're really describing like scenes from the Matrix. That's so amazing.
It was my awakening. It was and life has never been the same since. So I escaped. I slept in the forest just north of the hospital. I bought a mountain bike, a sleeping bag, and it was snowing that night, and luckily enough, I biked north and ended up sleeping in a tree house. And I slept in there in my sleeping bag that first night, and I could hear the helicopters looking for me. I could hear them.
Oh, my God.
So it was, so you can imagine the police calls, psycho patient escaped from mental institute.
Wow. Wow. Get dangerous, on the loose. He's a danger to himself and to everyone around him.
Yes, and you can imagine that if I was picked up, I would have been just dragged back and injected into oblivion. I wouldn't be here speaking to you if I didn't get away, that's for sure. So I slept in the forest that first night. I ended up biking for the next 2 days. For 2 days, biked past my home, and I ended up getting to the train station. I got another change of clothes. And long story short, I made my way to Ottawa. It took me 5 days to get to Ottawa. And I was thinking, okay, what do I do? British government, Canadian government, what do I do? And I sat beside the American embassy in Ottawa, and I realized I couldn't go to the British embassy because they wouldn't do anything. I'd actually contacted them whilst I was in the hospital, but nobody came. The Canadian government would have just put me back in the hospital's care, so I actually walked into the Ecuadorian embassy and claimed political asylum.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, I was packing my bags. I was heading to South America. I've been following Julian Assange for some time, and I've been a long-distance student of Noam Chomsky. So, I follow the politics and I see what's going on in the world, and I made that decision to ditch my citizenship and head to South America. And they were helping me. I still got those guys on my contact list, and we had a great conversation. They took my photograph and they said, okay, we need you to put your story in an email and we'll fire it off to Ecuador and we'll let them deal with it. So that's when I headed off looking for an internet cafe so I could tell them the story.
And then what happened?
So I come out of the Ecuadorian embassy. I'm walking down to looking for an internet cafe, and I get directions, and I'm like, okay, I've got about $30 left. I'm wearing the same clothes. My feet are sore. I'm like, okay, the clock's ticking. I look to my right, scouring the stores for this internet cafe, and I see a sign that says church. A little white sign, and I'm like, okay, they might have a computer they can lend me for free. And I look again, and it says Church of Scientology. And I'm like, oh, okay, what do I know about the Church of Scientology? And then that's when I started recalling Tom Cruise. And I'm like, okay, Tom, what do I know? Oh, yeah, Tom, he was jumping up and down on the sofa with Oprah Winfrey, and he had that big pharmaceutical scandal at the time. I realized he was anti-pharmaceutical, and with all my cancer research and with everything that I'd just been through with the false medication, I knew this was the church for me. So
right.
in I went. And, I went in and I met this nice guy by the name of Robert in there, and I just said, look, I need your help. I started telling my story of what had happened. And instead of being met with, we don't believe you, you're crazy, we're going to call 911, I was met with, we know, it happens all the time.
Right.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was, and I'm looking at this guy, I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, yeah, it happens all the time. So yeah, they took me under their wing and gave me the computer. Now this is where it gets a little, they say fake and everything. There I am in the Church of Scientology in Ottawa, and there was a meeting that very night with the CCHR, Citizens Commission on Human Rights. And this was a very big meeting with a gentleman by the name of Frederick, I forget his surname now, but this guy had just put 19 psychiatrists in prison for psychiatric abuse. And he'd just flown in from France that very night. And wow, I'd walked into the only place in Canada, and probably on the planet right now, that could have helped me.
Right.
Wow.
And sure enough, I attended that CCHR meeting. I met Frederick, and I met some high-ranking officials from CCHR. There's a lovely lady by the name of Yvette Shank. I call her my angel. And she took me under her wing, and sure enough, the police were called, and I was taken to Ottawa Hospital with Yvette and CCHR beside me. And I'll tell you, ladies, they treat me like a king. They treat me like I was royalty. They washed my feet. They couldn't do enough for me. They gave me a hot shower. They booked me a hotel across the road.
Was that because you were in the company that you were with at that time?
Because I had CCHR with me. Because
right.
when the psychiatrist came in and gave me the evaluation, he said, "No, there's nothing wrong with you." And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy. Tell that guy in Guelph that." And
right.
And it was the fear, honestly, the fear that CCHR put into that hospital. Honestly, they treat me like a king.
Now, I want to touch on something that you educated me on, Simon, is back to when the Scientologists were saying, yeah, we know this happens all the time, that in this area, in the area that you were in, but you were educating me that it's going on in many, many areas, especially in this country, it's all about the money, meaning, the more patients they have that are, severe or whatever, the more the hospitals are giving, or whoever is giving the hospitals money. So it's really, again, about this big money thing. And the Church of Scientology was well aware of that. Did I get that part right?
They're 100% right. It's all about the money. You've got to follow the money trail. And the Scientologists and the CCHR, I think they've labeled the pharmaceutical industry as their number one enemy. They want to take them out. And CCHR are lined up to take psychiatry out because they're just buddy with the pharmaceutical industry. But the thing with the psychiatrists is they have the power to label you. I mean, you've just got to look at what these guys are doing to our children.
I totally agree, because when you look at the way the court systems are run and the way that the legal system bows down to the psychiatrist's opinion.
Yeah.
If someone is labeled as anything, then then the court is just, oh, well, all right, well, that must be so, and then we act accordingly, which means that the psychiatrists are the ones that are being given all the power.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. The psychiatrists are the dangerous force at work on this planet, even more so than the pharmaceutical industry. But the thing is, the psychiatrists are now in bed with the pharmaceutical industry. So if the psychiatrists can come up with a new diagnosis, the pharmaceutical industry have got another pill to sell.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know,
I was just looking on the television, seeing an ad for a new mental illness that I'd never heard of, and there was a new medication for it. It's just like the health. I would just really appreciated that you opened my eyes, because there's several documentaries on, specifically, for one thing, open heart surgery. The statistics are all over the place, but it's something like 50 to 80% of open heart surgeries don't even need to be done. And I only know that because I was working specifically with someone with heart problems, and they were told, oh, you got to have open heart surgery, and he's fine now, no problems, never had the surgery. And there's a great deal, we've had guests on talking about, you know, how lucrative chemotherapy is, and constantly being diagnosed that you need chemotherapy when they never did, and a lot of them didn't even have cancer in the first place. And so I was just glad I wasn't aware that I should have been, but that part of the psychiatric community got in on that whole, you know, treasure trail, I guess you'd call it.
Well, and the compounded problem is that there are people who are suffering and having mental trouble. That is happening with certain people. But now it's become such an epidemic that it's labeling anything about the human condition that is unpleasant to experience. And now we've got a drug for that. And you can't go through life expecting to never experience anything unpleasant. It's part of the human condition. You can't just drug yourself so that you never experience anything unpleasant.
100% agree. 100%. I mean, it's like sadness. It's like, oh, you're sad? You know, well, you know, if my pet died, yes, of course I'm sad. Oh, yeah, there, take a pill, you know.
That's exactly, have a lobotomy. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Like the drugs,
the
drugs are the new lobotomy. I mean, the drugs are the new lobotomy, the answer to everything.
They are, and it's psychiatry's, it's pseudoscience, it really is, and they've connected with the pharmaceutical industry, and it's a force to be reckoned with. I mean, I'll tell you one. They've actually labeled the female menstrual cycle as a mental problem.
Oh my God!
Oh, you told the wrong two girls that.
They've labeled it. So be ready, girls. It's insane.
It is insane, because we're kind of going backwards there, because I recall my mother, which she told me when she was a teenager, and she was having menstrual problems, pain. She went to the doctor, and he says, "Oh, it's all in your head."
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
I remember reading, they give you like the little pamphlets when you're like, I don't know what, I was probably 10, like preparing you for what's going to happen.
I was 40.
And she was, so they give you like they give you these little pamphlets, and they were like, I remember this so distinctly, a smart girl will know not to let the blues get her down when it's her time.
Oh dear.
And like, again, you're making it up, you're hysterical. It's always just whatever's convenient wherever there's money. Unbelievable.
It really is. And I just want to touch on something there about it's in my book and whatnot, but again, with like, I just got to say there is great Western medicine doctors, and there's a lot that aren't. There are good psychiatrists, and there's a lot that aren't. But the same thing about the menstrual all in your head and whatnot. I had this is part of, in my book, this story, when I was directed to go to from one top oncologist to another, to this top, gynecological oncologist, blah, blah, blah. They're about to give me biopsies in my cervix, and it looks like that they use a tool that looks almost like a hole puncher for paper, but it's a bigger triangle. So they ram it up there, and it's not even a clean break. Like, they kind of get a chunk of, and then they pull it out, and some other tissue tears along with it. And before that happened, I talked to other women, and they're like, yeah, they don't give you anything. They give you some kind of stupid little local that you don't feel. They don't give you any kind of pain. And so everybody I was scared because the people that I talked to were telling me how, like, it's the most excruciating pain. It's just like, taking paper scissors and sticking them up you and start cutting away or whatnot. But the point is when I said to this Harvard grad, top of the class, when we were going to do the first biopsies, I said, I'm pretty worried about this. I've been told it really hurts. And he's standing in front of me. The nurse is standing behind him. He's like, oh, no, it doesn't hurt. She's behind him mouthing, it hurts like hell. And I'm like, how can you tell me it doesn't hurt? And he's like, well, we don't know why. It just doesn't hurt. And I was like, maybe you don't know why because you don't have a cervix.
Wow.
So anyway, but yeah, back to, menstrual, it's all in your head, and we're going backwards, man.
We're going backwards.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of convenience. But before they didn't care who was suffering. And now that they've figured out that they can make money off of it, they're going to convince you that your suffering is so bad, you have to buy our product.
Yeah.
100%. That's exactly what's going on. It's a huge marketing campaign, and I see it coming all over the airwaves here in Canada. I'm not sure what the American TV stations are like. Not that I watch that much TV now, but it's there. It's like everybody has a mental problem. Come out and talk about it.
It's very
what I mean?
It's the same thing in the U.S. They run commercials constantly. Same thing.
Yeah, talk to your doctor about your mental problem. It's like, what? It's conditioning, social conditioning to accept the pill.
Yeah, totally. So now I want to just make sure we're having so much fun and I'm watching the time fly by. So I want to just give it to you, Simon, and let you touch upon any points that you would like to make or something that, hasn't been said yet.
Wow, the power of the mind, the placebo effect. I would love to touch on that. And diet. I'm just told I don't need no magical pill, and I always tell people, don't look for the magical pill when it comes to curing the disease. Just remove what caused the problem in the first place.
Right.
And if you look at our food supply, we are being laced with poisons, and it's right there. And so that's what I tell everybody: remove the poisons, just replace it with what doesn't cause cancer, which is organic food. Eat well, remove your stress, and get on with life and be happy, and just stay away from the Nazis, I call them.
Well, it's interesting because we're getting, bombarded by different poisons, meaning, there's a lot of poisons in our food, but there's a lot of mind poisoning out there. And, when I was in the Essene Seminary, we had to go through so many different exercises over the years. And one of them is we had to walk around for a week. It was an assignment. We had to take note of every kind of programming that there was, from billboards to signs in the bank to this and that. And what's interesting, again, is one of the doctors on Ian's team always makes the point, at the turn of the century, there was 3% cancer. That's all the population, 3%.
Oh, I just made the most cartoon face, like my jaw just dropped to the floor and my eyes got big, like I turned into a cartoon. I'm dumbfounded. It was 3%?
3%.
What?
And keep in mind, everybody was smoking their brains out, eating all kinds of stuff, meat. But let's bear in mind there wasn't as many antibiotics and chemicals in the meat. But, and I always like to point out that, one of my all-time favorite novels was Rebecca. And at the end of the novel, when they found out, and Rebecca was, Spoon, her cousin, so at the end we find out that, and this was Daphne du Maurier, and it was written around that time, maybe a little bit later, but the general public was so ignorant about cancer because there was none. So we find out Rebecca has cancer. Then she died of cancer, and then the cousin gets all paranoid and goes, "Cancer? Is that catchy? Can you catch that?"
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm just giving as a moment in time in history how the general populace had no idea what cancer was and if you could catch it or what have you. So the thing is that as we have progressed now it's not just all the antibiotics in the food. And, so now we have statistics that 1 in 3 people have cancer. There's nobody right now who hasn't been touched by cancer, whether it be a friend or a family member or themselves, et cetera, et cetera. And I just like to point out, yes, all of the food and whatnot, but also the cancers out there, your mind is getting poisoning. Everywhere you turn, this causes cancer, that causes cancer, this is cancerous, that isn't cancerous. And once again, it's always interesting, like, what's the money behind that now that tells you, drinking water gives you cancer? You know what I'm saying?
If it's full of fluoride, it does.
Well, that's true. I know that was a horrible example, and I should just...
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I think the point that you're making is really well taken, because it's setting up the population for self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
They're seeing messages that these are the statistics, I must be next. And so then you're like raising an expectation, you're setting bad mental patterns. It's that kind of self-fulfilling mess.
And it's that formula that I believe started in America, is set the general populace up in fear, so they will consume.
It's true. It's so true. They accept it. So you're right. Self-fulfilling prophecy. They accept it. You know, when I speak to people, they say, "Oh, well, everything cures cancer." No, it doesn't. Try meditating. Try organic food. Remove your stress. All those things. Yeah.
I saw something. I saw something recently on Facebook which made me laugh. I wish I had it in front of me. I would quote it exactly, but it was something to the effect of, before you think you've got depression and clinical depression and anxiety, just make sure you're not surrounded by a bunch of assholes.
That's so true.
So it's like there's just we have to be vigilant at this time to make sure that we're keeping our mental space clean, that we're keeping our physical space clean, and really what the programming is, and know how powerful we are, and what we decide, that's what's going to ultimately happen. If we decide we're going to be healthy and take actions to make sure that we're handling, the universe and our bodies, and do that as well, but just have all cylinders firing so that it's mentally clean, physically clean, and the expectation of our future is a clean one. And that's really the way to beat it, because you have to go on all fronts.
Totally agree with you there. Totally agree with you. And one aspect that's overlooked is the power of the mind, and that we do actually create our own reality. And I am a firm believer in that. And if you believe that you're going to die, and you believe that this is going to be your fate, then that's going to be your fate. But if you believe others, but you have to take action too to make that reality come true. We do create our own reality, and it's
absolutely we sure do, whether it's intentionally or by default, as it's called. And creating your own reality by default is meaning you're not paying attention, you're not in full conscious mind awareness. You're not in present time, so possibly all of these things around you, these billboards and these ads and whatnot, they actually, they're already kind of, again, you're observing them, you're not aware of it, but you're taking in that information. You're not aware of the thought of like, ooh, cancer ran in my family, or ooh, so much of it is really hyper awareness now, because we're just completely surrounded by it.
We are. It's the best. That's a great description, and I would describe it as subliminal programming. That your subconscious, you're not aware of it, but it's going through your eyes into your subconscious. So it's subliminal. There it is. We're just being bombarded by it, and so we've got to be very, very. And I'm very aware. That's why I don't watch TV anymore. I'm very selective in the information that I let my eyes focus upon.
It's so smart to do that. I used to study with a Christian preacher, actually, who used to talk about it as gates. He would talk about your different senses as gates, and you have to be careful what you're letting through your ear gate and what you're letting through your eye gate, and that those would be like ultimately coloring your perception of things and your expectations of things. And so, is it really necessary to watch the news? Do you really need to know about everybody who's been shot today? Right. You can get along without that, and it's helpful to keep those things clear, that pathway clear, and be conscious about what your own creation, what your own postulates are, the way that you would make something happen and think about something happening and not just be a receipt point all the time.
Or if you are watching it, be aware, like, you know, well, I wonder what the true backstory, because we're not getting any real news, and what the backstory is on that, and who, you know, who's going to be making money off of that, and is this really true, et cetera, et cetera. And I just love to, a friend of mine told me, I love this, that, actually, speaking of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard called, like, the media people, he called them merchants of chaos.
They are. I've never heard that term before, but they are. When you realize that we actually have the power to create our own reality, what is actually going on a global scale is these elites at the top, these corporate elites that control the media and the governments, and they are creating a reality of this world, their reality. And the image of the world that the general population gets is from their TV screens. That is their perception of the world. And when it's actually not the case, but we just have to find another way of connecting, and that's why I've really connected with my spirituality since all this unraveling. So yeah, there is another way of living, and it doesn't have to be with CNN.
Yeah, totally. Well, you know what? Unfortunately, it's we only have a few minutes, not a few, but maybe 5, because the time's going so fast. So I had 2 questions for you, Simon. First,
yep.
How's the script going? And also, if you want other people to contact you or, you know, give all your information. And also, I want to thank you because Simon is a contributor to my charity, and thank you so much for that contribution, Simon. You're an angel.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah, contact me. Well, I'm actually building a blog. My blog will be up at simonschannel.com. It's not live just yet, but it should be live in the next 8 weeks, I'm hoping. Or they can reach me on Facebook, Simon Coleman, .505 on Facebook. Yeah. Yeah, and as far as the script, that was kind of me just kind of getting that story. You know, when you go through a traumatic event like that, you just kind of write things down and kind of, it's out of the memory then. So I'm going to go back to writing that at some point in the future. But that was just
yeah, absolutely. My book is in a gazillion pieces all over the place. So, you know, I totally understand that. And I just want to also, Vanessa, to get a chance for her social media and her contacts.
Oh, thank you. Well, before I give that over, I just wanted to encourage you, Simon, to finish that script, because the world needs to hear what you went through and needs to hear that story, and I want to go see it. So please, don't deprive us. Get it out there.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm working on it, Vanessa, for sure.
Very good. Okay,
sure.
Great. Well, let's connect. Please hit me up. I'm at Vanessa Logan 80. That's 80 on Twitter.
Did you say knock me up?
I said knock me up. I've never met this man. What am I going to do? I'm sure you're very attractive, but I'd like to at least have dinner first. I don't know.
Oh, that's so funny.
I said hit me up, meaning everyone listening can follow me on Twitter at Vanessa Logan 80. I'm also on Instagram at the same location and Facebook as well under Vanessa Logan. But it has been a genuine pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today, Simon.
And you can knock me up anytime. I'm single now, so it's not a problem. Knock me up at J. Cynthia Brooks Official on Facebook, or J. Cynthia Brooks House of Healing Knock Me Up on Facebook, or J. Cynthia Brooks 1 on Twitter, and all of the above. Just knock me up.
Just knock you up. Just knock you up. Well, thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I just want to end by saying to anybody that's listening, if they are suffering a disease or a diagnosis, change your diet immediately, organic. And just to follow up as well, I've got a human rights violation case running against the psychiatrist for his violation of my human rights, and that's
good for you. How's that going?
The CCHR are handling it, but the psychiatrist, I went to confront him afterwards, and he skipped town. He just ditched his job and left. And
Wow.
that's what they, as soon as CCHR come on their lines, that's what they do, because he's looking at prison time.
Holy moly. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Great work. Great work. Good for you.
So it's CCHR, they're the experts.
I'm sorry, Simon, what does CCHR stand for again?
It's Citizens Commission on Human Rights.
Got it.
Citizens Commission on Human Rights.
Wow, they're doing a fantastic job, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, they've got a tough job ahead of them, but they saved my life. I'm indebted to them. If it wasn't for them, I would be in South America now, in Ecuador.
Wow.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it is. It's like, thank God for them, because, you know, we wouldn't have you, and that would just be such a tremendous loss.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious, how much time do we have? Do we have one more minute? It's 2:55 on this clock in California.
Yeah, we have 3 minutes, actually, because the music comes in about 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have 3 minutes yet.
Well, I'm interested. If somebody wants to, whether it's be preventive or if they do have health issues, how would someone go about alkalizing their diet or their body? Like, what would be some steps that just to get them started? What would they do?
Well, the alkaline vegetables, they're highly nutritious. It just happens to be kale, broccoli, all the leafy greens. They are alkaline. Organic lemons. Lemons are very alkalizing. I recommend juicing the whole rind and everything, just the skin and everything. A couple of those per day. That's exactly what I did in that first 2 months. High in vitamin C, very alkalizing.
Well, also, just to remind everyone, first you want to know what your pH level is. So you can get the little strips. You can get, as I've said before, the little pee-pee strips or the little tongue strips, and just make sure you don't get them mixed up like I did. And it's not always an exact read, so don't freak out. But find out where your pH levels are in the first place. And don't freak out like, oh, God, I'm 5, because I've been 5.5 again, and I didn't get cancer again. You know, there's so many other, I just said that, elements that have to come into play for full-blown cancer. But if you're interested in raising your alkaline, first find where your alkaline is. And, you know, there's also, like, there's ASEA, that's ASEA, that's a great product. Dr. Bernardo, that's the first thing he would get his cancer patients on, because it raises the alkaline levels so quickly. There's alkaline water that you can do. And so the general thought is when you're hanging out around 7.2, you know, you've got an alkaline body, back to alkaline body, and cancer can't live in an alkaline body, except for supposedly some very rare blood cancer diseases, but that's way up into like 8 points
Okay, so for the layman here, you pee on the thing that you buy at Walgreens.
Then you lick it.
And then you lick it, and then you measure, once you determine that you're not pregnant, then you want to be around 7. If you're down on 5, you need to eat some more broccoli, juice some lemon rinds. You want to be around 7. Drink your alkaline water, because that's the environment in which cancer cannot thrive. Correct?
Exactly.
Exactly.
7.2, 7.4 is even better. Okay. And hey, another thing, if you get a cancer diagnosis and then you go get one of those strips and it says that your alkaline level is 7.2, you got a misdiagnosis.
Wow, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm finding right now in my travels, more and more misdiagnoses. I mean, now they're just like, even at the vets, it pissed me off. They're like, well, he's sick. He probably has cancer. Oh, boy.
That's right. I just read a story this afternoon. Actually, an old gentleman, grandfather, 60 years old, wrong diagnosis, went through 6 months of chemotherapy.
Yeah, on a misdiagnosis?
Yes, mixed diagnosis.
What valuable information.
Oh, Vanessa's face is turning red. So.
I love you guys. It's been a pleasure.
My face is not red.
I believe in angels, and I believe in you. I believe in the simple things in everything you do. I believe in the heavens above, and I believe in truth. had, because I believe in you.